Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel with today's LeetCode DCC problem squares of a sorted array. This question has been asked in previous interviews of Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft and PayPal. Let's look at the problem statement. Given an integer array nums sorted in non-decreasing order, we have to return an array of the squares of each of the number sorted in non-decreasing order. If we consider example 1, we can see the input are in non-decreasing order, and the output contains the squares of each of the number in the input array. We can see the square of -4 is 16, square of -1 is 1, square of 0 is 0, square of 3 is 9, and square of 10 is 100. And also the output is in non-decreasing order. Let's see how we can approach the solution. Given that the input array contains integers and are non-decreasing, there can be three cases. First one is the array contains all positive number. In that case, if we do the square of the number, the resultant array will be non-decreasing. So in that case, we can simply traverse the array from left to right and push the elements one by one. So starting from 0, we can push and then 9, and at the end we can put 81. Other cases, if the array contains all negative numbers. So in that case, after squaring, we can see the array formed are non-increasing order. So in that case, we can push the elements one by one in the output array from right to left. So first we will push element 1 and then 9 and so on. At last we will push 81. So we conclude that for the array which contains only positive number, we have to traverse the squares from left to right. And for negative number, we have to push the elements of the squares of the number from right to left. Now, the third case where the array contains both negative as well as positive number. So for that, we will find the point from where the positive numbers is starting. So once we get this point, we know that for positive number, we have to push the elements from left to right. And for negative numbers, we have to push the elements from right to left. Basically, we will get 2 pointers. Now, out of this 2, if we which one to push first? Now we have two options. We can push the first element of the negative number and the squares of the positive number. So in that case, we will compare which one is small. So if we see the square of -1 is 1 and square of 4 is 16. So 1 is smaller, so we will push 1 and we will move the pointer backward by one step. Now we will compare 9 with 16. Again, 9 is smaller, so we will push 9 in the output vector and we will move the pointer one step backward. Now we will compare 81 with 16. Now 16 is smaller, so we will push 16 and move the pointer one step forward. Now we compare 81 with 36. Now again 36 is smaller, so we will push 36 in the vector and move the pointer one step forward. Now comparing 81 and 64, 64 is small, so we will push 64 and move the pointer one step forward. Now since we are not left with any of the squares of the positive number, we will push the remaining squares of negative number in backward direction. So the remainings are 81. So basically for this problem, we can first find the point from where the positive number is starting and iterate the positive number from left to right and negative number from right to left. And then we can compare the squares of those number and push the smaller one first. Let's take more example and see. If we take this example, so this is the point from where positive number is starting. So we will store this pointer to at j and 1 at I. Now, which one to push first? So we will compare the squares of the elements at position 1 and position 2. So we can see squares of -1 is 1, square of 0 is 0. So out of 1 and 0, 0 is small. So we will push 0 and we will increment the pointer 1 by 1 step forward. So we will increment the pointer 2 to 3. Now again we will compare the squares of number at position I and j, that is 1 and 3. So square of number at position 1 is 1 and square of a number at position 3 is 9. So out of 1 and 9, 1 is smaller. So we will move the pointer 1 step backward. So we will update the ith pointer to 0. Now we will compare square of a number at position 0 and position 3. So square of a number at position 0 is 16 and position 3 is 9. So 9 is smaller, so we will push 9 and we will increment the pointer 1 step forwards. Now we will compare the squares of a number at position 0 and 4. So square of a number at position 0 is 16 and at position 4 is 100. Out of 16 and 100, smaller is 16. So we will push 16 and update the pointer 1 step backward. Now it's -1. Now we are not left with any of the squares of negative number. So we will push the remaining positive number from left to right. So remainings are only 100. So we will push 100. So we can see the resultant is contains the square of all the input numbers and it is in non-decreasing order. Let's take another example. So first we will iterate the array and find the point from where the positive number is starting. So we can find that at index 2, the positive number is starting. So we will initialize j with 2 and I with 1. So our ith pointer will move in backward direction and jth pointer will move in forward direction. So we will see the squares of a number at position I and j. So the square of a number at position 1 is 9 and square of a number at position j is 4. So out of 4 and 9, 4 is smaller. So we will push 4 in the output vector and we will update the jth pointer by 3. Now again we will compare the square of a number at position 1 and 3. So at position 1, the square of a number is 9 and at position 3, the square of a number is 9. So since the squares are same, we can push any one. So let's suppose we push this 9. So we will update the ith pointer by 0. Now again, we will see the squares of a number at the 0th index is 49 and at third index is 9. So out of this two, 9 is smaller. So we will push 9 and we will increment the pointer to 4. Now we can compare the square of a number at position 0 and position 4. So square of a number at position 0 is 49 and the square of a number at position 4 is 121. So we will push 49 and decrement the pointer to -1. So since we are not left with any of the squares of negative number, we will push the remaining squares of positive number one by one from left to right. So we can see the resultant array is in sorted order in non-decreasing order. Now let's try to code. First we will find the size of the vector Now we will create an output vector. Let's name it with squares. We will keep two pointer I and j. So we have initialized j with 0. So we will iterate the vector and find the point where the positive number is starting. So we will iterate the while loop while nums of j is less than 0, and we will do j plus plus. Once we get the position from where the positive number is starting, we will update the position of the negative numbers, that is I equal to j minus 1. Now we will compare the squares of positive and negative number, and we will push the smaller one first. So while I is greater than equal to 0 and j is less than n, if nums of I into nums of I is less than equal to nums of j into nums of j, that means the square of negative number is smaller. So we will push the square of negative number and decrement the counter by 1. Else we will push the square of positive number and increment the pointer by 1. So once we are done with either of the positive negative number, and if either of it is remaining, we will push the remaining number. So suppose the square of negative number is remaining, so we will run a while loop while I is greater than equal to 0. So we will push the square of negative number and decrement the counter by 1. Else, if the square of positive number is remaining, we will push the square of positive number and keep incrementing the counter by 1. Once we are done pushing the remaining numbers also, we will return the square vectors. So let's check. I think we are good. Let's try to run the test cases. So we can see the test cases has been accepted. Let's try to submit the solution. So the solution has been accepted. I hope the problem statement as well as the solution is clear. If you have any question, mention in the comments below. See you in the next video. Thank you.